The sun was barely cresting the eastern hills, casting a warm glow over the rolling fields of Pine Hollow, Colorado, when I pulled my truck onto the familiar dirt road leading to my ranch. I just returned from a grueling 3-day work trip auditing federal land boundaries in Montana, my body aching for the comfort of my own bed. My ranch, a modest spread built by my father's calloused hands, was more than just land. It was his legacy, a testament to years of sacrifice. But as I rounded the final bend, my heart stopped. A towering wall of steel shipping containers blocked the road, a quarter-mile from my property line, cutting me off from the home I'd fought to preserve. Tears stung my eyes as I gripped the steering wheel, realizing this was no accident. This was war. The containers bore the logo of the Crestview Homeowners Association, with a sign proclaiming temporary maintenance storage authorized personnel only. Below it, in fine print, a notice cited vague community bylaw violations and directed me to contact the HOA office. I snapped photos, my hands trembling with fury. This was deliberate, a calculated move to choke me out. The gap between two containers was just wide enough for a person to slip through, but my truck wasn't going anywhere. I parked on the roadside, grabbed my luggage, and trekked the half-mile to my front door, sweat soaking my shirt by the time I arrived. Taped to my door was another HOA notice, claiming violations for unauthorized livestock and illegal construction. My few chickens and 2 horses were perfectly legal under county rules, so what was this nonsense? I'm Ethan Carter, and for a living, I audit federal land boundaries, a job that's taught me to spot discrepancies others miss. The Crestview HOA, led by their icy president, Pamela Vaughn, thought they could bully me into abandoning my father's dream. They didn't know I'd uncover a secret so explosive it would unravel their entire scheme, a secret tied to fraud, greed, and a protected aquifer that could bring down their empire. What they saw as a stubborn rancher was, in fact, their worst nightmare. I called Pamela immediately, her voice dripping with calculated professionalism. "Mr. Carter, we've been trying to reach you. There are serious violations that must be addressed." I explained I'd been away for work, demanding specifics. She dodged, muttering about improper fencing and unapproved animal structures, then referred me to the HOA bylaws and hung up. That evening, I pored over my property records and found a critical detail. The blocked road wasn't under HOA control, it was a public access route. They had no legal right to obstruct it. My neighbor, Tom Bradley, stopped by later, his face grim. "Ethan, you're not going to believe this," he said, leaning against my porch railing. "I overheard Pamela talking with that developer, Victor Hayes. They're planning a luxury resort, and your ranch is smack in the middle of their golf course." Tom revealed that Victor had bought out nearly every other property owner along the stretch, offering above-market prices. I'd already rejected 2 of his offers in the past year. This land wasn't just dirt to my, it was where my father worked 2 jobs, saved every penny, and built a life for us until the day he died. I wasn't selling to some slick developer eyeing a rich man's playground. The HOA notice contained a chilling clause buried in legal jargon. If I didn't correct the violations within 30 days, they could initiate proceedings to buy my property at a community-added value far below its worth. This wasn't just harassment, it was a blatant attempt to steal my land. Rage surged through me as I sat on my porch that night, the stars blinking above my slice of paradise. I'd kept my cool through desert deployments, but this was my line in the sand. I called Sarah Mitchell, a property rights attorney and old friend. "Sarah, they're trying to force me out," I said, my voice tight. "They've picked the wrong guy to mess with." Sarah arrived the next morning, her SUV kicking up dust as she parked beside the path I now had to walk to reach my property. Her navy suit was crisp, but her jaw dropped at the sight of the containers. "This is outrageous, Ethan," she said. "They're calling this temporary storage, but it's a clear blockade, no matter what permits they've finagled." We'd worked together years ago on a boundary dispute, and I knew her tenacity. She'd once lost a case to an HOA in Denver, watching them crush an elderly couple with fines they couldn't fight. That loss still haunted her, and she was determined not to let it happen again. We headed to the county records office, a dim maze of filing cabinets and overworked clerks. Sarah's legal credentials got us access to permit applications, where we found Victor's resort plans rejected 3 times for environmental concerns tied to a nearby conservation area. His latest application, though, included a new map with altered boundaries. Using my specialized equipment, I created a digital overlay. "Look at this," I told Sarah, pointing to the screen. "They've redrawn the conservation line, and my property's marked as acquired, even though I never sold. The forgery was clever but flawed, obvious to someone with my training. Minutes from a closed meeting between Pamela, Victor, and town council members, including the new mayor, hinted at a deeper conspiracy, referencing removing obstacles to community enhancement code for my ranch. Tom shared stories of other property owners harassed into selling. The Millers faced fines for offense until they sold at a loss. The Thompsons endured penalties for improper landscaping until they broke. Then came the HOA's final warning, listing absurd violations, including a claim I was running an unauthorized zoo because of my horses and chickens. Using my modified laser surveying tool, I measured the HOA's boundaries and confirmed they didn't match official maps. More startling, I detected an underground aquifer beneath the area protected water source feeding 3 downstream communities. Development over it required rigorous environmental studies Victor had clearly skipped. Our investigation caught the eye of Emma Walsh, an Emmy-winning documentary filmmaker tracking shady developments across Colorado. This fits a pattern, she told me over coffee, far from HOA prying eyes. Developers use HOAs to force out holdouts. Emma's prior exposés had revealed similar tactics, and she was eager to document my fight. The stakes skyrocketed when we found Victor had submitted falsified documents to the land registry, including a forged approval letter bearing my former supervisor's signature. I spotted the flaw as subtle misstep in the signature's loop. This was no longer just pressure, it was criminal fraud. The HOA swapped the containers for temporary barricades, citing road maintenance. But the effect was the Samino vehicle access to my ranch. Sarah filed motions to challenge the permits, suspecting more forgeries. I dug deeper at the county's historical archives, an old church with stone walls that had seen Pine Hollow's transformation from wilderness to farmland. The elderly caretaker, Mr. Jenkins, helped me unearth a Native American journal from the 1940s, its hand-drawn maps showing the HOA's development encroached on federal land due to a botched 1980s survey. The past has answers if you know where to look, Jenkins said, turning brittle pages. I called Sarah from my truck that evening, the sunset casting long shadows. It's worse than we thought. They've built 30% of their luxury homes on federal land. Armed with this, I requested all HOA incorporation documents, uncovering irregularities in their boundary definitions. I filed a complaint with the Federal Land Agency for a boundary verification, knowing it would rattle Pamela. She showed up the next day with 2 board members who looked more like muscle than neighbors. "Mr. Carter," she sneered, "this resistance is only making things worse. The fines are piling up, and there will be consequences beyond money if you keep obstructing progress." My phone, recording in my pocket, caught her slip. "You have no idea who's backing me." That admission hinted at bigger players. Using satellite imagery and historical records, I mapped the true boundaries, showing the HOA had been nibbling at federal land for years. Emma incorporated this into her documentary, and as word spread, other residents shared their own HOA horror stories. Victor upped his offer to $500,000, then $1 million, warning, "You're making a big mistake, Ethan. Powerful interests don't take kindly to interference." I declined, informing him of my federal inspection request. His face Paletti knew a full audit would expose everything. The HOA escalated, hiring a PR firm to paint me as an unhinged veteran on social media, using edited clips to twist my words. Neighbors shunned me at the diner, and a cease and desist letter threatened a $2 million defamation suit. My truck was vandalized, tires slashed, windows smashed, my security cameras destroyed. Legal costs mounted, and I missed work assignments, draining my savings. Even Tom wavered, his family facing pressure at school and work. "Maybe taking the money is just being smart," he said, exhaustion in his eyes. Sarah, too, lost clients tied to Victor, but she stayed loyal, reminding me why we fought. At a community meeting, Pamela denounced me as an obstacle to prosperity, her allies touting Victor's resort as a job creator. When I tried to present my evidence, my mic was cute an accident, the technician later confessed. Alone in my darkened living room that night, I stared at photos of my father, his favorite chair empty beside me. Victor's $1 million check tempted me, but selling would betray everything Dad taught me about standing firm. Then I noticed something in new satellite imagery, vegetation patterns signaling the aquifer's flow. The entire Crestview development sat atop this protected water source, violating federal law. I called Sarah, adrenaline surging. They're not just on federal land theory threatening the region's water supply. A former colleague, Mark Thompson, reviewed my files, and pushed for an official federal survey. When the team arrived, their precision was unmatched, using advanced GPS and soil samples. Pamela and Victor tried to derail them with injunctions and roadblocks, but federal marshals intervened. I recorded a secret meeting where Victor admitted to scrubbing evidence, live streaming it to hundreds of residents. The survey confirmed 28% of Crestview was on federal land, with the aquifer at risk. Emma's documentary preview, featuring my story and the live stream, went viral, splitting the community. Some rallied behind me. Others, fearing property value losses, backed Pamela. At a packed town meeting, Victor pitched his resort as Pine Hollow's salvation, backed by paid influencers. I stepped to the podium with Sarah and the lead surveyor, unveiling a map of the true boundaries. "This isn't just about my ranch," I said, laser pointer steady. "The aquifer here feeds 3 counties. Their expansion would be a disaster." I revealed a conservation plan to protect the aquifer while letting homeowners stay. The room erupted, a retired surveyor backing my claims. Pamela ended the meeting abruptly, but her control was slipping. The fallout was swift. Victor faced federal charges for fraud and environmental violations. Pamela resigned, sued by homeowners for misused fees. A new HOA board embraced the Green Valley Watershed Preserve, halting new development and restoring sensitive areas. My ranch was safe, and I founded a legal fund for others facing HOA abuse. Emma's documentary won awards, sparking national debates on property rights. I took a federal role leading boundary enforcement, staying on my ranch. One evening, a year later, I stood on a hill with Tom, the sunset gilding the mountains. "I never thought one guy could take on people like that and win," he said, handing me a beer. I smiled, sipping slowly. Winning isn't always about beating them. It's about doing right for the land, for everyone. I looked at the valley, now a preserve where justice had taken root. And if you think containers will make me sell, you better learn to read a map. I teach that class,